Toxic insecure DM throws fit when player quits game. I've been playing an online game, mistake number 1, VO Roll20, mistake number 2, of D&D 5th edition, mistake number 3. I recently left that game after a falling out with the DM, who I had known for some time had a history of emotionally abusing his players. His response to my departure was very telling to myself and the other players about how insecure he is when he loses control of any aspect of his games. I joined a game of 5e that promised a magical college setting similar to Strixhaven. The first session made it clear that this was not quite accurate, as the setting of the campaign was more closely resembled to a high school sitcom in a modern day setting, just with 5e stuff plastered over it. I didn't have a problem with this, but I immediately noticed an issue with how the first session was run. It was almost entirely roleplay between the players and respective close NPCs portrayed by the DM. All of the interactions had a hostile tone to them, despite not all of us indicating that kind of relationship between PCs and NPCs. This would become a pattern as the game progressed. Over several sessions, the DM would frequently push the player characters into scenarios where he had absolute control of the circumstances, including what we as characters could choose to do. I thought this was just a clumsy way of railroading the story, but soon these engagements started happening out of character as opposed to in character, and it became clear that the relationship we were expected to have with our DM was a hierarchical one with him at the top. I wasn't the only one who noticed this. One of the other players, who we'll refer to as Sarah, spoke to me privately regarding not only her discomfort with the game, but also issues from a previous game she and the DM had shared that several people abandoned due to the latter being overly hostile in-game. She shared that he would frequently message her about other players not role-playing the characters they pitched. I received no such complaint from him myself, but I did see the DM use our roleplay section to force my character into a specific role and archetype I had made clear I was not interested in. This is when things got bad. The DM began to undercut the party during combat. He kept information that we, the players, would logically need to know to roleplay and coordinate appropriately private, and frequently chastised us for the choices we made roleplaying, not for any stated reason, just due to the fact that he found what we were doing to be boring or uninteresting. Despite the fact that we as the players were enjoying ourselves, he frequently would make passive-aggressive comments about us doing silly things in character and not following narrative paths he wanted but didn't tell us to pursue. We were mocked for not picking up on his unclear signals, kicked from calls for sassing him during games, and held to account for jokes made out of character as if everything we said was a personal attack against him. These were soft methods of control he was using to guide our behavior in a dishonest and artificial way. I also learned from Sarah he was committing outright emotional abuse to her in private, screaming at her in private chats, implying that any disagreement with his conduct was an attempt to armchair psychoanalyze him. He used very demeaning language regarding therapy in this context, and claiming that any request for space or time from her was equivalent to her abandoning him. I told her this sounded manipulative, and she agreed, but we both decided to stay involved for the sake of the other players. Which leads us to yesterday. During a combat session, I attempted to cast a spell that had a cone effect, with the specific intention of hitting one target and not my allies. The DM, before I had shown where I was aiming, drew out what the spell would hit and began calculating damage. I objected, saying that I wanted to aim in the direction of where my target was hit from an angle, not straight on, which isn't rules as written, but I had experience with DMs allowing that in the past. The DM proceeded to move my character, draw a new line, and without offering any explanation to his ruling, said that was now what I was doing. This upset me, as I believed this to be another form of him taking away my agency. He only explained how he ruled this after I got angry with him for moving my token, and chose to speak down to me as if this was him offering a solution. As opposed to simply deciding what I was doing, I foolishly escalated, saying I didn't appreciate the way he was speaking to me, and he proceeded to set me against the party, saying that if I really wanted to make my attack, as I originally had, he would retaliate against the rest of the group and use that ruling aggressively against us in future fights. After taking a few moments to calm myself, I made my turn and let combat proceed. When the combat ended, roleplay began again, but I had moved away from the table to process my emotions. A few hours after the session ended, I sent a message in our Discord that I did not appreciate the controlling and emotionally manipulative methods the DM was using and felt as though my agency was being subverted. I left the group after that, blocked the DM on Discord to avoid him harassing me in chat, and thought that would be the end of it. The next day, though, Sarah messaged me saying that my message had been deleted by the DM and replaced with a message from him that had said I had done, quote, some fucked up shit, unquote, and bailed overnight. He apparently also had been whining about me to her all night as well, though she only noticed in the morning. I learned later that he had sent me DMs on Roll20 that I didn't see because I don't check my notifications on Roll20, saying that the entire group believed I was at fault and a burden to the game. Untrue, I spoke to the others, and at worst they believed we were equally to blame. That my attempt to smear him would never work because he had more control over them than I did, also untrue and irrelevant since I had not tried to do so, and that I should seek professional help, a tasteless sentiment at best. I also learned he blamed my anger with him on me being transgender, likening me to other people who had left games of his before for similar reasons and asserting that must be why we're all unhinged. Wow. His message made it clear that he was trying to have the last word, if it were. He refused to let my words speak for themselves and messaged me privately that the other players were on his side entirely, implying he had beaten me in some way. He spoke at length, not about the issues I had, but about how my reaction must have been indicative of severe mental problems, that I should seek help for my issues. I have a therapy regimen, and I find the use of therapy as a pejorative to be distasteful at best and hostile to mental health treatment at worst. I can't help but see this as him insecurely holding on to his sense of power over me, asserting his place at the top of the hierarchy. It was petty and pathetic, especially for someone at least 10 years my senior. Sarah has said she is likely going to leave the game as well once she can confirm the other players are safe to talk about this. I fully expect the DM to blame me for destroying his game, but I think if my words were enough to shatter people's faith in him as a DM, that's his fault, not mine. This DM is so in-your-face manipulative. It's frankly insulting. I mean, so much of what they did was insulting, but the fact that they said that the OP's attempt to smear him would never work because he had more control over the party than OP did, like, that is out in the open, clear, not trying to hide what you're trying to do at all. It is absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, when you get red flags in life, pay attention to them. When you notice things that are off or don't feel right, or you're told by other people that things might not be good, pay attention to that, listen, because you might end up in a situation like this. The analysis is a bit shorter for this video because I want to let people know who watch my videos what's gonna go on for the next little bit. Roll for Reddit is not going to be weekly anymore, as I found that it's a bit difficult to find posts that I actually want to talk about, and moving it to like a monthly thing would allow me to have each story I put in there actually worthy of talking about and analyzing, versus just me trying to have to find something that works for that week. I don't know if I'm still going to have a Monday video every week. Monday is going to be a bit up in the air for the next little bit. However, there are video ideas that I have that don't fit into the DM tips series that I do on Thursdays, which will stay weekly. So Mondays will be a little bit more experimental, trying different things, see what works, what I like. And yeah, thank you for watching. This is the end of the video.